All right, guys, in this video, I'm going to try and answer a question that was posed to me. I stated that when I was very low carb for long periods of time, I developed high blood sugar, so I developed insulin resistance, and the person basically said that's impossible. You had to have been eating sugars. You can't get insulin resistance by being low carb. And I want to show you that it is possible. I want to show you that I have people on a regular basis now after I'm making these videos that are coming to me and going, yeah, I was struggling with those same things. So I'm going to walk you through what your body is doing, explain that to you, and then talk about some things you can do. So let's hop right into it. So first of all, we have to establish some ground rules. When you're very low carb or no carb or keto or carnivore, whichever sort of extreme that you're on, you have to understand your body's preferred fuel source is glucose, okay? Now, people will say, well, you don't need carbohydrates to survive, and that's technically true. You don't. Your body can make glucose. It can provide you with that fuel source, but it's inefficient and it's a stress-based system, okay? So here's what you have happen, is that if you eliminate carbohydrates, your body will kick into a stress response. So for example, you'll see cortisol levels go up. Well, why is your body kicking cortisol out? Cortisol is kicked out so you can get glycogen released from your liver. You can get fatty acids from your fat, which is the whole point of being keto. And there's problems with that, which we'll get to in a second. It can also convert protein to amino acids. But for some people who are keto who don't eat enough protein, even that, if you don't have enough protein, the cortisol will actually start breaking down your own body tissue to provide that glucose. Okay. In an acute setting or short term, it's a good system to have in place because it's a backup when you don't have enough food. But if you do it long term, that's when we start to see the problems. That's when I started to see problems. Okay. Now, if we go higher fat and lower carb, the other thing that's going on is you are now training your body to operate off fats rather than carbs. Now, again, the keto crowd, the extreme diet crowd, the crowd I was part of for a long time, believes this to be a good thing. But this is called the Randall effect. Okay, and you can go ahead and look this up. But when you do that, your body preferentially learns to handle fats and not carbs. And that's why the people that are coming to me now, they're like, I was keto for so long, I try to reintroduce carbs and my sugars are all over the map. It's hard to reintroduce carbs, and that's because your body essentially doesn't know how. This is why you see insulin resistance in people who are keto and these low carb, because you've trained your body to only deal with fats, okay? And you got to remember, insulin is vilified. It is the villain in in most of the diet community, and that's unfair because insulin is an anabolic hormone. It's needed in our bodies, and it's part of a whole ecosystem, and it's not the only hormone at play when it comes to regulating your blood sugars. Okay, so we know that insulin can be secreted to help bring sugars down, but we also know that cortisol will force your sugars up. Okay, so we've got all these compensatory mechanisms going on in your body. Once again, we keep coming back to the fact that carbohydrates aren't the enemy here. Another thing, look at somebody, if you give somebody a steroid, like if they get a prednisone or methylprednisone tablets and they take those high doses for a long time, it can actually put them into a disease state called Cushing's syndrome. And what you see in Cushing's syndrome, when they have these high steroid, these high cortisol levels, is you can see abdominal obesity, polycystic ovarian syndrome. A lot of women that struggle with this, they will give them, one of the first things they give them is metformin to try to regain insulin sensitivity. But if a lot of cases, if the person just naturally reintroduced carbohydrates slowly, it would help take care of that. And you see women that can recover from PCOS by going back in bringing healthy carbohydrates, not just healthy carbohydrates, but all food groups. You can see people with Cushing syndrome develop increased blood sugars and diabetes. You can see their cholesterol levels go up, triglyceride levels go up. And as I've talked about before, high cholesterol is tied into, if somebody comes to me and says, well, my cholesterol is high, one of the first places you should look is their thyroid function, okay? And then finally, the stress response. Think of, you've probably heard of adrenal fatigue, and I think the term is overused, but think of your adrenal glands like a backup mechanism. If your thyroid runs your metabolism, the adrenal glands are kind of a backup when they're not working. Well, if you're depleting carbs, you're not using them, you're getting carbohydrates, talked about this before, you need it for conversion of your thyroid hormone. When it's not getting it, the thyroid can ramp back, so the adrenals kick in. The adrenals are what kicks out your stress hormones to help fund that process since you're not eating carbohydrates. So there's a bunch of things going on here. I am not saying that limiting carbs on the short term is bad. Your body's designed to do it. On long-term basis, I'm seeing more and more people like myself who are having problems with it. And this is why you can get elevated blood glucose, even though you're not eating any carbs, because your body is compensating for the lack of carbs. So instead of trying to make your body compensate, just give it the fuel source it's looking for. Your metabolism will improve. You will generally feel better. It won't be a quick process, depending on how long you've limited carbs. But it's your body trying to tell you something in short. So again, I realize I went in a little bit into the weeds on this, but it's important for people to understand that a lot of what you've been told about low carb, particularly low carb for long periods of time, just simply isn't true. And I don't think it's the healthiest thing you can be doing. So let me know in the video, have you tried it? Do you struggle with it? Your comments are helpful for me. They're helpful for other viewers. So speaking of which, I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you.